So I wanted to continue our color lecture and talk a little bit about the emotional uh, connotations of color. So when you're choosing a color as a designer, it's really important that you understand how colors affect people. And that becomes part of your decision about which color to choose. So we're going to talk about some of this and take it with a grain of salt. Colors kind of shift, they change, but there are some significant emotional feelings that you might look at when deciding which color to use. So looking at this chart, you'll see that yellow can often be a very optimistic color. Orange can be friendly. Red can be exciting. Purple can be creative. Blue can be trustful, can signify trust and strength. Green can be peaceful, and gray or neutral colors can be balance. And if you look at this logo color chart here, you see that the majority of colors are actually designed in blue. And then if you look over here, you'll see that there's also kind of a big chunk of logos designed with red, some with orange, very few with pink or purple. Some are neutral and some are green. And there's a few that are kind of yellow and a lot that are kind of yellow and black. So we'll look at some of this starting with blue. So blue is a very dependable color. It can be seen as symbolizing strength. It's committed. It's also the color of ocean and sky. Blue is perceived as a constant in our lives. It's the collective color of the spirit. It invokes rest and can cause the body to actually produce chemicals that are calming. So the effects of seeing and experiencing blue are it can calm and sedate, it can cool us, make us actually physically feel cooler, it aids intuition. It's actually the least gender specific and appeals to both men and women. And people are generally productive in blue rooms. So sometimes interior designers or architects think about blue as being very productive for a company that needs workers to all go into one space. So green. Green is a very organic, natural color. It's seen a lot in nature, and it occupies more space in the spectrum visible to the human eye than most colors. It's actually second only to blue as a favorite color. Green is pervasive in the natural world, making it an ideal backdrop for interior design, and that's because we're simply so used to seeing it everywhere. The effects of green are it tends to relax us mentally as well as physically. It can help alleviate depression, nervousness, and anxiety. And it offers a sense of renewal, self-control, and harmony. And you can see the recycling logo here in green. Very appropriate color for this particular logo. So, kind of going back to the spectrum, I also want you to think about what companies choose specific colors. So if you look at blue, for example, you'll see that there's some big established older companies that are choosing blue. Ford, IBM, Dell, and then new companies as well, Twitter, Yahoo. So this Yahoo actually is going for purple, not blue, sorry. So you can think about who's choosing these colors. So if you go up to green here, you see that it has this Sprite here, so there's a soft drink. Going to yellow and red, you see that there's actually a lot of fast food chains that choose yellow and red. And then going down here to the purples and the pinks, very few here, but of course the ice cream store Baskin Robbins chose pink, which is pretty appropriate. And Barbie chose pink here. So let's talk a little bit about orange and how orange affects us. Orange is a very cheerful, confident color. It's a close relative of red. It sparks more controversy than any other hue. There are usually strong positive associations with orange and strong negative associations with orange. True orange generally elicits a stronger love it or hate it response than other colors. It's fun and flamboyant, And orange literally radiates warmth and energy. So the effects of orange are it can stimulate activity, make us want to be active. It can stimulate the appetite, and it can encourage socialization. And here's just some of the companies that have chosen orange logos. Going to red. Red is a very close relative of orange, but it is a little bit different. Red is very bold and youthful. Red has more personal associations than any other color. It is recognized as a stimulant. Red is inherently exciting, and the amount of red is directly related to the level of energy perceived. Red draws attention, and a keen use of red as an accent can immediately focus attention on a particular element. So the effects of red, it can actually stimulate our appetite. It can create energy and increase blood pressure in our respiration and pulse. It encourages action and confidence, and it provides a sense of protection from fears and anxiety. And it really does increase enthusiasm. So here you can see that red it's not always the primary color, but often these fast food restaurants use red. And one of the reasons is it does stimulate that enthusiasm and actually stimulates our appetite. Okay, so here's just a little breakdown here where you can see that red, hot, passionate, love, rebellious, powerful, sex, radical, excited, bold, devil. Orange here, warm, summer, mellow. Going to yellow, we're looking at solar, happy, cheerful, fun. So when you do your adjectives for your logo, sometimes they really tie into these colors. Green is environmental, it's organic. It's earthy. Blue is cold. It can be stimulate progress. It's about trust, freedom. It's a royal color. Purple is also a royal color. It's mystical. It's Victorian. It's decadent. Brown is rustic, furniture, earthy. And then you have these multicolor logos that, depending on the combinations, can really, create some kind of a varied energy. So brown, I would say that brown is very close to orange, but it's also close to green in that it's very organic. So there are some companies that use brown logos. UPS is probably the most famous company. And I would say that when you're using brown, often it's very organic. There is kind of a trustworthiness to it. It's not generally maybe as exciting as other colors. It's more neutral. But it can be very calming and appropriate. And here's an example of a coffee logo. And then there's also some logos that kind of combine brown and orange. Here's a great example of that. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful logo. And the orange is kind of bringing in that stimulation, and the brown is kind of the grounding color, the organic color. Purple. Purple is, an amazing color. It's really not seen very often in nature, so that when we do use color, remember that it's one of those colors that is very decadent. It's actually used for the highest denomination, the $5,000 bill, and it really embodies kind of the balance of red stimulation and blue's calm. And there's a sense of kind of mystic and royal quality to purple. It's often liked by very creative, eccentric types, and it is the favorite color of adolescent girls. So depending on who you're marketing your products to, it can be either a great color or it can be not so appropriate. So going to black here, I'm going to tie black into gray, even though it's a little bit different than gray. Black is authoritative, it's powerful. Black can evoke strong emotions. Too much can be overwhelming, and it can also kind of represent a lack of color. It's very sophisticated, and it can make one feel a sense of potential and possibility. Here's some other black logos, and you can see that when you pair it with white, it creates intense contrast, which can be really nice. So we're going to go to yellow here. So yellow is also similar to orange and red. It is the color of clarity and warmth. Yellow shines with optimism, enlightenment, and happiness. Shades of golden yellow can carry the promise of a positive future. Yellow often advances from its surrounding colors and can instill optimism and energy, as well as spark creative thoughts. And the physical effects, it stimulates mental processes, it can stimulate the nervous system, it can activate memory, it can encourage communication. Yellow is often the happiest color on the spectrum psychologically. Some cultures have negative associations with yellow. It can be sadness in Greece, jealousy in France, or in the United States, yellow can be seen as a cowardly color. So when you start to mix and think about your color scheme for your logo, it's really good to do compare and contrast charts here, where you take your logo and you design it with different color palettes, and you think about what those color palettes are doing to the emotional content of the logo. And if you choose to use multiple colors, really pair those colors together and see what they're doing to each other. And this is also really good when you're meeting with a client and you're talking about the color choices. When you have these associations, you can kind of sell the colors to the client and talk about why you're using these specific colors and get them to be more excited, more on board, and to trust your knowledge. Here's the Apple logo, the famous Apple logo. It was a multicolor logo, very successful. And you can see that, they're really kind of thinking about the energy. They want this to be an exciting product. This logo, seen earlier, can also be designed in gray for a much more sophisticated look. So there's so many different options. You do want to be careful with logos. Most logos are just one color. If you are pairing, multiple colors to the logo, really understand why you're doing it, because it can create kind of a sense of chaos, or almost it can be too overpowering to fit into some situations. So remember, your logo has to really be able to transcend and go into different places. And if it is a multicolor logo, then it is just in the nature of having so many colors, it's going to tend to be very prominent, and that can also be overwhelming. FedEx, this is a great logo. I talked about this in my logo lecture. But the great thing about this logo is you can actually use different color combinations with this. It pops, it seems progressive, it's got a lot of energy. And here's the Apple logo in gray, and I was talking about that earlier, and how you can really see the difference and the different feel you get from gray to the multicolored logo. This is almost a whole different identity than the first logo that we saw. So you're making decisions, you're thinking about color. I will put this lecture at the bottom of the page here so that you can kind of read through and look at it and look at these different associations. You can also kind of research online and just thinking about the color. How does the color make you feel? Know the associations, and also figure out how the color literally will make your audience feel, especially when you're pairing two different colors together.